My name is Christina Pulido. I'm a journalist, and I would like the part for the motion. If your name was Hassan and you were born in Syria nowadays, how would you argue tonight, frankly speaking?
You've got the microphone down there.
Excuse me.
Stand up, please.
Hello, my name is George Fotopoulos. I would like to make a point to Mr. Murray. The last point you made in favor of the motion was that the people of Europe have the right to protect their identity and that their politicians should respect that right. And I would like to ask you why you feel that the presence of 1 or 2 or 1,000 people with a different identity within a society threatens the identity of the people who were in the society originally. Whether you believe that is a legitimate concern or a primal fear, and whether you agree that when a primal fear drives a crowd, they become a mob, and that a politician should follow a mob and not provide leadership by calming the mob down and giving them a reason. That is my question.
Thank you. And towards the back.
Hello, my name is Eli Liu. I was a student in University of Piraeus International European Studies. And I won't be very quick, but I am against the motion. And I would like to say that the European Union was an ex-colonial power. So most of the countries of the Third World were exploited from us. So now we cannot say that we don't accept them because most of their riches and their wealth were taken from us. And as for what Mr. Voridis said about our values as Europeans, it's the globalization that takes
Just repeat that sentence, will you, please? You stopped in the middle.
Yes, our values. Mr. Voridis talked about our values as European citizens, as humans. Well, I think globalization takes them from us and not immigrants. And about the shadow economy, it's the fault of the state control that doesn't eliminate it. And
right, okay, that'll do for the moment. Let's first of all get those points picked up. Douglas Murray, your response particularly to that challenge to you.
Right, very quickly. First of all, if I were Hassan in Syria, I would hope, among other things, that I would help to rebuild my country after the Assad dynasty had wrecked it so completely. I'd hope that I would stay and help to rebuild the country after the devastation caused by that family. Secondly, the gentleman here who said 1 or 2 people, the gentleman here said, why are you threatened by 1 or 2 people? I'm not threatened by 1 or 2 people. Nobody is threatened by 1 or 2 people. The figures I gave you showed we're not talking about 1 or 2 people. The figure I gave you at the very beginning was that people who identify as white British citizens are now a minority in their capital city. So we're not talking about 1 or 2 people, and it is very disingenuous to pretend that I was. Thirdly, the lady at the back, you say colonialism. I'd like to return the question to you. I don't deny the crimes of colonialism, not for a moment. I'd like to ask you a question. How long do former colonial countries have to be punished for then? How long do we have to have our identity erased for? Is there any end limit to it in your eyes, or is it only at the point of complete negation? And finally, why is it that it's only European former colonialist countries? One of the largest and most significant and longest colonial powers in history was the Turkish Empire. Do we do this to Turkey? Do we say to Turkey, you must have your identity erased as well as punishment for the past? Almost every single people in the world at some point has done something historically they could be punished for. But why, I wonder, is it that it is Europeans that we are always being heard, being offered that choice?
Douglas Murray, thank you.
Well, for me, homeland is where a community of emotions, of ideas, of values, and of action is. Hence, my homeland is at the same time Crete in Greece, but also Nepal, but also Malawi, but also India, but also Ghana and Kenya, Tanzania, all the places I've been to do some activist good work for ActionAid. This, for me, is homeland.
Douglas Murray.
Can I come back on that very quickly? There is a class of person today, which is I refer to as a transnational elite, who genuinely does believe that they are at home in the whole world. Occasionally they land and grace us with their presence in a particular country. In Canada recently, Michael Ignatieff stood for Prime Minister, and he said at one point, Bernard Kouchner knows him well, he said, Canada is the country, if I needed to call anywhere home, that I would call home. Unsurprisingly, the Canadian electorate threw him out. Thank you for deigning us with your presence, Michael, was pretty much their view. There are people who do feel that, but I think at the very least such people should accept that a lot of people do not run around the world, do not have the opportunity to go from country to country, feel that the country that they know best and well and love is changing, and at least regret the fact. And that should be respected. It should be respected in Europe as it would be respected anywhere else in the world.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I had a very quick point to the lady who said, put it much better in English than I could, about the cosmopolitanism and patriotism. This is exactly the issue. Many people today do feel this cosmopolitanism. They see around, they like the fact that migration has brought all sorts of things. I'm one of them. I like the fact that migration has occurred. What I do not like, and what a lot of people do not like, is when instead of cosmopolitanism, you get such mass migration as we have had in recent years, that you have parallel communities, parallel lives. I have been to Paris, Bernard. I have seen your banlieue. These are not cosmopolitan. These are single racial entities where they live separate lives in the same city.
I wanted, however, to raise the point that the fear of the other and the unfamiliar is being politically promoted at a time of crisis as a substitute for dealing with the crisis, as a personification and shifting the blame for the crisis to those least able to answer back. Don't do that mistake, please.
Sorry, very quickly. I don't think. Can I just very quickly? I'm noticing this. I don't see the crisis being blamed on immigrants, and quite rightly not. The crisis, as I see it in Europe, is mainly blamed on bankers. It's mainly blamed on financiers. I mean, maybe we're watching different debates.
Hello, I'm Vasilis Papadopoulos. I'm currently undecided, and I would like to address Douglas Murray. Since he mentioned two completely different things, which is actually true about cities that currently immigrants are arriving in. Are there two different societies, two parallel societies, or are the actual locals losing their identity? How are they losing it if there are two different and parallel societies?
Douglas Murray, quickly.
Well, in several ways. I gave the example of France because Bernard is here and because I think it's a particularly bad example of how to integrate or not integrate people. But the European countries have had different ways of dealing with this. I mean, Britain has done some of the French thing itself, of simply putting large numbers of people. In the case of Britain, I mean, nobody's for this now, but there were large, whole villages pretty much from Pakistan that were transplanted to the north of England, to mill towns that no longer had any work. I mean, that was a catastrophe. That isn't all of the immigration, that isn't all of the failure of integration. But I'd like to just come back to the point I was trying to make, which is this, is that you can integrate people if you have integration at the if you have immigration at the kind of speed which it did go through in centuries past. But if you have migration at the speed at which it is now happening, the examples I gave, the same amount of immigration every couple of weeks, every couple of months, as was happening across centuries before, then you cannot integrate people. Then you have no hope of integrating people. Then people will come in, they will not have to meet anyone from the society they are going into, and they will lead parallel lives. And there are all sorts of miseries that come from that.
Well, I'm Gina Moscoli, I'm a journalist. I'm against the notion. And a couple of things very quickly. Mr. Murray, you said 20,000 Romanians are held for crime. What does that prove exactly? I'm kind of lost there. I'm planning a trip to Bucharest. I would really like to know if there's a natural tendency. I'd really like to know beforehand. And Mr. Voridis, excuse me, one of your arguments, Golden Dawn, is rising because it is filling the gap of the structure. You're an MP of New Democracy Government Coalition Party. Do you believe that we should close the borders because the government is unable to take measures to fill the gap instead?
Okay.
My name is not Hassan, my name is Efrosini, it's Greek. And my last name is Al-Youssef. My father is Syrian, my mother is Greek. And I can assure you that I love Greece as much as both of my parents love Greece. I'm not a criminal. My father is not a criminal. My whole family are not criminals. But all my life, I have been insulted and bullied. And now the people that insult me and bully me are the criminals of the Golden Dawn. And I just want to say that this country is not friendly to immigrants. So instead of worrying about the criminality of both sides from the criminals and from the members of the Golden Dawn, how about we teach the kids and we all learn to be friendly for a change?
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm just going to ask one question particularly, this issue of the economic need now for migration, particularly the figure from Germany, up to 6 million new people needed with skills. Douglas Murray, your final intervention.
Well, thank you. First of all, I said at the outset that the other side would say there's nothing we can do, it's all settled, and they've proved it. This side has tried to give some answers for what we would suggest to be done, and the other side has said, you've just got to live with it. I would like to answer some of the specific questions. The gentleman who said, does it matter where people come from? Yes, I would submit that it does. I'm very happy with people from France coming to Britain. I'm very happy with people from Greece coming to Britain. I am slightly concerned, at the very least, about people from Somalia coming to Britain, because they tend to bring problems that the Greeks and even the French do not. The lady at the front who said you're a journalist, who said, you know, I gave you figures. Out of 68,000 Romanians in the UK, 28,000 of them have been taken in for questioning and have been charged by police for criminal matters. Now look, you say you're a journalist. I don't know if you're independent. Your question suggested not. But when you go to Romania, why don't you find out? Don't blame the figures. The figures are the figures. Don't blame them, find out. Thirdly, this, and it comes back to Antigoni's point and the point the chair made. What do we do about them? Look, I hate to say this pyramid migration where we need more and more people to prop up our aging populations. Let me tell you an amazing fact. Immigrants grow old as well. If you use that model, you need more and more people every single year coming in. That is the model until you burst. That is nonsense. Finally, the lady at the back who said about this, look, I absolutely appreciate what you say. It is disgusting, and it is true that racism exists in all societies, in every society in the world, and it needs to be tackled in all these places. If you are arguing against the racists, I'm with you. If you're arguing against the fascists, I am with you. But if you want to deal with these problems, we have to deal with the issues that irritate them, that aggravate them, and then we separate out legitimate concerns of legitimate people and illegitimate concerns of racists and fascists. This is the time to deal with it.
Douglas Murray, let me challenge you, because you didn't answer that question about whether the German Economics Ministry is wrong, saying Germany needs up to 6 million extra people because Germany cannot provide the skills.
Yes, they are wrong, because this year it will be 6 million, and in a few years more it will be 9, and then 12, and then so on, because they will grow old, they will have children, and there will be more and more old people, and you'll need more and more young people coming in to support them. It is an unsustainable model.